A board workshop of the Board of Trustees of McAllen Independent School District will be held Monday, November 11, 2019, beginning at 4 p.m. in the Boardroom Administration Building of the McAllen Independent School District, 2000 North 23rd Street, McAllen, Texas. At this workshop will be discussion by board on items subject listed below. At this time, nobody has signed up for the public address, so we'll go to number 5, discussion of McAllen ISD dual language program. Dr. Gonzalez.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. McAllen ISD implements the dual language program at 8 campuses. This afternoon, Dr. Ibarra will give us an overview of the program. Dr. Ibarra.
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Board of Trustees, Dr. Gonzalez and guests. As Dr. Gonzalez mentioned, today I will share an overview of the dual language program at all our at 8 of our campuses, and I will also discuss our action plan to continue to support the successful implementation of our dual language program. This presentation aligns to Goal 1 of our strategic plan, student achievement, student focus. So the mission of the bilingual department is to support all English learners in ensuring that they are receiving an equitable educational opportunity that addresses their effective linguistic and cognitive needs. I would like to begin with an explanation of the state mandate as it pertains to the education of English learners. It is the policy of the state that every student in the state who has a primary language other than English and who is identified as an English learner shall be provided a full opportunity to participate in either a bilingual education program or as English as a second language program. Furthermore, each school district that has an enrollment of 20 or more English learners in any language classification in grades pre-K through 5th shall offer a bilingual education program. If there are fewer than 20 English learners in any language classification at the elementary level, the district shall provide an English as a second language program. Furthermore, English as a second language program shall be provided at the secondary level for English learners, regardless of the language classification or enrollment count. Now, the state does grant the school district the discretion in the type of bilingual or ESL program that can be implemented, and there are 4 bilingual education program models, and they are on the screen for your review. So under the transitional bilingual program, we have early exit and late exit. Under dual language, there are 2 options, one-way and two-way, and under their ESL program, districts can either implement the ESL content-based or ESL pull-out. Now, in our district, we offer 3 bilingual education program models, and they are as follows. The first one that we offer is the transitional bilingual early exit model. The goal of this program is to provide primary language. The primary language is used as a resource while students acquire full proficiency in English. Literacy and academic content is taught in the primary language. However, instruction in the primary language decreases as the English is acquired. The certification required of teachers is bilingual certification. If we move on to dual language immersion one way, the goal of this program is for students to attain full proficiency in English and another language. And once again, literacy and academic content is both in English and the primary language. However, at least half of the instruction delivered to students is in the primary language during the duration of the program. Now, the certification that is required for this program is bilingual education for those teachers that are providing Spanish language instruction, and it can be ESL certification or bilingual certification for those teachers that are providing the English instruction. The composition of this classroom is comprised primarily, the population is comprised primarily of English learners that's speaking the same primary language. Now, we also offer a dual language immersion two-way program, and this is exactly the same as the dual language immersion one-way. The only difference is that the composition of the classroom is that there are English learners with the same primary language and English proficient students. That is the basic difference. So in McAllen ISD, we have 19 elementary campuses. 12 elementary campuses offer a transitional early exit program, and 7 campuses implement a dual language enrichment program. If we move on to the secondary level, we have all of our middle schools and high schools implement an ESL pull-out program, and only 1 campus, which is Folsom Middle School, implements a dual language enrichment program. Now, as you know, our different campuses began the implementation of dual language program at different years, and it varies by year. So in 2014, 2015, we began the first cohort of dual language enrichment program at Jackson and at Sanchez. Then in 2015, 2016, we proceeded to Fields, McAuliffe, and Perez. 2016-2017, Milam and Gonzalez began the first year of implementation in dual language. In 2018-2019, FOSSUM implemented dual language for the first time at the 6th grade level, and of course now they have it at the 6th and 7th grade level. And our goal is to have dual language at the high school level by 2021-2022. So as the students from FOSSUM move up to the high school, so will the dual language program. So the next 8 slides, I'm going to be very brief because there are quite a few slides. I'm just going to give you a breakdown of the total number of bilingual classrooms at each of the schools, and then a breakdown of program, bilingual, dual one-way, or dual two-way.
Excuse me, Dr. Ibarra, is there any way to make that a little bit larger?
No, sir, that's as large as it goes. Yes, I apologize. So at Fields Elementary, we have 23 classrooms, and all classrooms are dual two-way. If we move on to Gonzalez Elementary, we have 21 bilingual classrooms, of which 15 are bilingual early exit, 2 are dual language one-way, and 4 are dual language two-way. If we move on to Jackson, 22 classrooms are bilingual classrooms, of which 6 are bilingual early exit, 16 are dual one-way, and 0 two-way. McAuliffe Elementary has 15 bilingual classrooms, 6 are dual language one-way, and 9 are dual language two-way. At Milam Elementary, we have 18 classrooms, of which 11 are bilingual early exit, 7 are dual language one-way. Perez Elementary has 7 bilingual classrooms, 3 are dual language one-way, and 4 are dual language two-way. Sanchez has 16 bilingual classrooms, 5 are bilingual early exit, 2 are dual one-way, and 9 are dual two-way. And then, of course, at FOSSUM, we have 3 classrooms that are taught as dual language classrooms, and 2 are at the 6th grade level and 1 at the 7th grade level. Now, as you know, disaggregation data analysis is very, very important as we assess and evaluate the success of a program. And so at this time, I would like to provide an overview of the academic achievement of our English learners at the dual language campuses. Domain 3 is known as the Closing the Gaps domain, and it focuses on performance of student groups. English learners is one of those groups that is evaluated in this domain. The indicators included in this domain align the state accountability system with the Every Student Succeeds At, or the federal system. So under this domain, academic achievement of English learners is measured as follows. Star performance at the meets level or above in English language arts reading and mathematics, and progress made from one year to the next on the acquisition of English language proficiency as measured on the Texas English Language Proficiency Assessment System, or the TELPAS. So at this time, I'd like to review the results with you for our dual language campuses. So we start, if you look at column number 5 at the very bottom, the state has set a target of 44% for the all students category. And so if we look at just the scores for all our students under domain 3, all of our campuses, our dual language campuses met the target with the exception of Fields. Fields is at 38%. If we move further to the 8th column, the state set the target for domain 3 for English learners at 29%. So if you can look at this visual, all our dual language campuses met the target of 29%. I'll come back to the TELPAS in a minute. So if I move on to the math, you can see again the target for math is different. For the all students category, again, if you look at the 5th column at the very bottom, the target for all students is 46%. Once again, all our campuses met the target for math with the exception of Fields. If we look specifically at the English learner target, that target was 40%. So we do have Fields and McAuliffe that did not meet that target. Now, that information is vital for us. It is very good data. Obviously, as a school district, from the division, the curriculum department, bilingual department, we are analyzing, disaggregating the data, taking a look at the curriculum, at the standards, and all the supports that we have in place. And we do recognize that we do need to provide more support to a couple of campuses in the area of math and, of course, Fields in reading. I'd like to now call your attention to the TELPAS. As I mentioned, this is the standard or the assessment tool that we use to measure language development, or the development of language acquisition. There's 4 levels, beginning, intermediate, advanced, and advanced high. So the state set the target for all campuses at 36%. And once again, we have, out of the 8 dual language campuses, 6 met the standard and 2 did not, McAuliffe and Fossum. So once again, that tells us that we do have to provide additional support in the acquisition of language development at those 2 campuses. And I'll discuss our plan of action in a little bit. Another data point that you all asked us to look at was the comparison, the performance of students in dual language versus transitional early exit. So here for your review at a glance, we have broken down that information for you. Now at Fields, we do not have, other than one student who participated in early exit, we really don't have data to compare, but you do have there the performance level of our dual language, of students who are participating in dual language, and that's at 36% for reading and for math. Now, we look at Gonzalez, we do have data to compare. So in the area of reading, 68% of dual language students mastered at the MEETS level compared to 58% in transitional early exit. Moving on to the math, 79% of students pass in dual language program pass the math compared to 55% early exit. We move on to Jackson. 51% of the students in dual language mastered reading at the MEETS level compared to 49% of the students participating in early exit. And the math, 50% at Jackson of the students at Jackson participating in dual language mastered the math compared to 65% of students participating in early exit. McAuliffe, there's very few students in transitional early exit, so I'm not sure if that's a fair comparison, but again, you have the comparison there. 32% dual language compared to 14% for the reading. Then if we look at the math, it's 29% students who mastered math at the MEETS level, who passed math at the MEETS level, and the same for the early exit. Milam only has transitional early exit. As of last year, they were at the 2nd grade level. This year, they're at the 3rd grade level. So this year, we'll have data to compare. So the data is only for students participating in transitional early exit. Perez, dual language students in reading, 64% compared to 50% in early exit. That's in reading. And in math, 52% dual compared to 50% in early exit. And then finally, Sanchez, 61% of students in dual language master the reading. I'm sorry, I keep saying scored at the MEETS level in the reading. And then compared to 50% in students participating in early exit. And then if you look at the math, 61% compared to 45%. So again, this is another data point. It's good data for us to evaluate as we continue to plan and strategize for the future of dual language. Now, of course, as a district, again, as a division, as a Department of Bilingual Education, our goal is to continue to support the campuses with the implementation of dual language. So our goal and our commitment is to increase guidance, support, and resources to campuses in the implementation of dual language. And how are we going to do this? Well, first and foremost, it's very important that we take a look at the campus needs. So we have to analyze student assessment data. We have to identify areas of need. We are working very closely, bilingual and content coordinators in the curriculum side are working very closely in delving deeper into the data, identifying trends, identifying objectives and standards that perhaps are not mastered on the curriculum side, and working together to address those needs, those instructional needs. Of course, meeting with the principals and teachers to discuss their needs and their perspective. After all, they are in the trenches. They are the ones that are implementing the program and know the challenges that they face on a daily basis, and the needs vary by campus. So the bilingual department is making those appointments, already meeting with the principals, and now the next level works meeting with those teachers and hearing them out. What are their concerns? What are the challenges? What are the barriers that may be hindering them in any way? Or what are the successes? Because there are also huge successes, as we can see from the data. And what are we doing well, and what do we continue to do? So just having that open dialogue, that communication is vital as we continue the implementation of the program. And then providing the additional support as determined by the needs assessment, providing the support, additional support at a differentiated level, again, based on the campus needs. We cannot say enough of the instructional resources. We know that instructional resources in our Spanish classrooms, Spanish language classrooms, must be equitable to the resources that we provide to our English classrooms. And so that is That is a big commitment on our part. Through the bilingual department, we are making sure that those teachers and those resources or students get the same resources at an equitable level. So we're working again with the campuses. Most recently, I'd like to just highlight a couple of new resources. The HMH, Arriba la Lectura en Taller de Escritura, is a new adoption. This curriculum, this textbook has all the components in Spanish. However, we are working hard to ensure that we add specific guidance for teachers through the curriculum guides and their lesson planning. Furthermore, as we know, there is no approved adoption in Spanish for middle school or for the secondary level, so we purchased the Galería de Arte for Spanish language arts at the 7th grade level, working very closely with the teachers again to ensure equitable curriculum. And then finally, in the area of language development, we have two new programs, one new program, two new tools, the Summit K-12. This is a program that's helping students develop the language acquisition, and it's very comparable to the actual TELPAS assessment that they will take in February. And then again, language development bell ringer activities. These are new activities that a group of principals, and our bilingual department have worked on to support campuses with the acquisition of language. We cannot say enough about dual language professional development. We know that in order to implement a successful program, both our teachers and administrators need to understand the particular features and pillars of the dual language model. And so professional development is key. Since the inception of, we began the implementation of dual language enrichment program, we have provided extensive support, extensive professional development. However, we do recognize that every year we have new teachers, we have new administrators, so it's important that we continue with that professional development, and it is also differentiated depending on the needs of the campus. So I'd like to just discuss a couple of new trainings that are coming up in November, actually this week, November 15th and 16th. We are offering through the Gomez and Gomez model, dual language program model. He is coming in to support our teachers in the creation of bilingual learning centers, in the word walls, language of the day, and all those elements and components that are so vital to the dual language program. So that is, we are also doing the Spanish science and social studies, both for the elementary and FOSSAM and middle school. And so also dual language classroom instructional rounds, which are vital so that our coaches, our bilingual coaches, can go out there and support the teachers and provide feedback and support in the classroom. And of course, we have ongoing professional development. There are some things that we do year-round, and so our bilingual department will continue to support campuses, both at the beginning of the year and throughout the year with these trainings. Now, another area is our parental involvement. We know that a major component of any successful program is parental involvement and support. And so parents are key in growing and sustaining a dual language program. And so it is vital that we continue to offer meetings and opportunities to come together from the parents and the district staff so that we can discuss and engage in meaningful discussions. For your review, we have there 2 columns under each year. The first one is for all parents of English learners, and the second set of meetings is for those meetings for parents of dual language parents, specific to dual language parents. And so again, as you can see, we have increased the number of meetings that we'll be having this year to allow for more communication and more engagement. In addition, we are proposing to send out an electronic parent newsletter from the Department of Bilingual Education. So we are wanting to send this out to all our parents of English learners, and one with specific focus on dual language. We also want to partner through with the parental involvement liaisons, and that's actually already taking place, but increasing the intensity of those meetings through the parental involvement liaisons at the campuses, as well as collaborating with the migrant and state and federal programs, because again, they have their meetings, and so our students are in both programs, and again, in both or sometimes multiple programs. And so again, leveraging those resources, those meetings to provide as many opportunities for parents to come and collaborate with us. And lastly, open communication through the bilingual department. We want to reassure our parents that we do want them to come in, share their concerns, share their successes, share their stories, because we're about kids, we care about kids, and we want the successful implementation of the program. And that concludes my presentation. I'll open it up for questions.
Thank you, Dr. Ibarra. Before we continue, the statute suggests that, or tells the board that the request to speak at a meeting has to be turned in before 4 o'clock. There is no specific time. I've been going through these requests to speak. There are some concerns here that I think have been addressed. What I will continue to do is allow the board to ask questions in the prior to the 15 minutes before the workshop ends. If anyone's that's requested to speak answers questions have not been answered, then I'll give you your 2 minutes to address the board if that's okay with everybody. At this time, if any board member has any questions about the presentation.
President, I have a comment first. First of all, I don't know what's been said. This board and this administration supports dual language at McAllen ISD and is committed to it. What occurred in 2016 was that we found out through an assessment of our bilingual program is there was not a fidelity. That means it was not being done. The parents thought there was bilingual, dual language occurring two-way and one-way in our schools. And there were some issues that came up that it was not happening that way. And so in anticipation of the Every Student Succeed Act, which is the federal statute which governs a lot of things that public ed's doing in Texas, and most recently with HB 3, the administration was given direction from the board to review and reestablish a dual language with fidelity at the elementary level. The second thing was that the administration was given direction to see where it could transition into the middle schools, because it's not required to be at the middle schools. And one were the few districts that chose to go into the middle schools, and we are doing that. And then after that is to move into the high schools, again, with fidelity. Like, there is no other school district that is doing it from elementary all the way through. And this goes to the framework under Strategy 3, which is Engaged Learning Environment. This is our strategic plan for the district. And it goes to 3.1.3, which is to define and clarify rigor, emotional intelligence, and competitive job skills regarding tiered professional development services. And what we want to see is that young people are truly acquiring dual language, and in our area it happens to be Spanish. We came real close to having another language because there's 43 languages spoken in our district, unlike when many of us were growing up. But right now you have to have up to 20 students to qualify for a dual language, and we didn't. We have 18 in another language. So, to get to the point of the matter, we want to be able to have these individuals that when they come through the system, through McAllen ISD and graduate and go into a dual language program at the university level, whether they're a teacher, engineer, doctor, lawyer, they can converse and interact with their patient, their customer in both languages. No mucho, no Tex-Mex. They can actually interact in the two languages with fidelity. And that is what we're committed to do, and this outlines that. So we can talk about it and go about it, and we're going to have a lot of questions, but from my end of it and from what this board has been doing in this administration since 2016 through to now, is that's what we've tried to do. We also recognize in that assessment and talking to parents that no two schools are the same. And unlike when we went to school, every school was the same. In today's world, they're not. The cultures are different in each elementary, each middle school, even within the city of McAllen. And so that's why you see some variances. The other point is we wanted to start with an elementary cohort and work our way up and build up. So you see some are not yet at the 5th grade. That 4th graders have to move into the 5th grade. And then they move into the middle school, and as was mentioned, the plan is then to go into the high school in 2021. So I kind of want to lay out that thought, so, kind of clarify, because a lot of things, a lot of rumors, a lot of things were said that I've heard and received a lot of calls and emails. I think we all have. And I think a lot of you are here, and thank God you are. It's a blessing to have the community involved. As you can see, we intend to have it more involved in our discussions going forward. But This is not a meeting to say we're going to do dual language or not. This is how we're going to do well to see why students aren't doing well in certain. They may be an A campus, but the class that they're in did not get an A, and that's not right. That's what this discussion's about. And once we build a fidelity in the 7 schools, we can then see if other schools dictate. But bilingual in the state of Texas is dictated by the parent, the child's needs, and the teacher. That's how you implement. It's not at the board, not the administration. That's how bilingual education, those of you who know that that's how it works. And we intend to follow that. So the first question I have goes back to page 18. And page 18 is that one right there. Now, you mentioned there were going to be some specifics regarding why some of these students, again, you only isolate, and I appreciate it. We met on Thursday, Trustee Aliceta, myself, and Dr. Ivada to plan this presentation. And we added a lot of these slides because we knew the campus may have done well, but we wanted to know what the dual language, those students in those programs, what they were doing. We separated them out, and the administration put this slide, and I appreciate you doing that over the weekend because you did it on Sunday. But can you explain like it feels that we were all students at 38, and we had 144 English learners, only 49 passed. And in Spanish, we had 18 and only 4 passed with a 22%. Can you kind of tell us what your plans are and feels in this regard?
Yes, sir. Well, as you know, this is it takes a team, and so it's curriculum, working very closely with our content coordinators on the curriculum side that's being provided both in English and in Spanish, working together with the bilingual department in again analyzing trends. And so in speaking to both the coordinator for math, our math coordinator, and our director of professional literacy, it's evident that in some cases, certain standards and certain objectives stand out. So that is vital. So we have to know, and that's done at all campuses, not just dual language campuses, that data disaggregation and identifying those objectives that were, for one reason or another, not mastered. So how do we teach it differently? What resources do we have? So going very deep into the data and specifically into those objectives and having a different action plan, a different delivery for those particular standards, especially those that are heavily tested. So that's key. So it's about pedagogy, it's about curriculum, and obviously it's about the fidelity of the implementation of the program. So it's not one in isolation, it's all. And again, that applies to all our campuses.
Yeah, I noticed at McAuliffe also, the Spanish speakers, you had 37 students, only 8 passed at a 22%.
Yes. So again, this goes to I mentioned earlier that we're looking very closely at the Spanish resources and ensuring that we have equitable resources to the same level of quality, to the same caliber. So that's the next level of work that, again, our content coordinators do a great job, but now we come in with another layer and strengthening that curriculum, that Spanish curriculum, so that if it is our curriculum that we're targeting, again, also the strategies, also looking at those specific objectives and pinpointing specific objectives that perhaps were not mastered, looking for those trends so that we can teach them different. So it's in coordination with our curriculum coordinators who are key, who are the content experts, as well as the delivery of instruction, the pedagogy, and again, those strategies to help support the implementation of dual.
You mentioned resources, and the commissioner was recently down here, education commissioner, and he was talking about some of the resources, still not quite digital, books. Yes. We know that. But the other is it in language. Now, not all of them are translated into Spanish, and not all of them are digital. So, and I know you can't, for copyright reasons, you can't make copies. I hear that all the time. Why don't we make copies of the English or translate them ourselves? But that's problematic because of copyright laws. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So how do we fill in those gaps when we don't have textbooks available to us in Spanish or it's not in a digital format?
So moving forward, the commitment from the district is that we will not purchase any curriculum, any textbook that is not that is not offered in both languages. Because we are committed to both English and Spanish, it has to be offered in both languages. So that's moving forward. So with this new adoption, we did not even consider those publishers that did not offer both. So that is our commitment as a district. We want to make sure that our Spanish learners also have the same quality, the same caliber of textbook and resources. So that is key. So again, that's never going to happen, that we purchase a textbook that is not available in English and in Spanish, or a resource for that matter.
Yeah, could you bring up the slide regarding how many individuals are, and you created one for us, that are teachers that are in bilingual or certified? I think you did a slide.
Yes, I do.
It's
Okay.
separate from the PowerPoint.
Yes. let
And
me-
the other question I was going to ask you, can you make this PowerPoint available to the community, either a digital format sent to key individuals or to anyone here that wishes a copy?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
right,
Let
thank
me-
Is it going to be available on our website by any chance?
We can post it. This is for dual language campuses, and we also have it, of course, for all campuses. So you can see that the majority of our teachers have that bilingual certification.
Can you make that bigger?
Yes.
Yeah, you can. It's that little arrow on the right in the
Yes.
center. There you go.
So as you can see, the majority, 184 at the dual language campuses, out of 290 teachers, 184 have bilingual certification, 71 have ESL, and then 35 have no bilingual or ESL. And those teachers cannot teach our English learners, so they're in English-only classrooms. But the majority, again, are have the bilingual certification. The district, again, is invested in hiring teachers with bilingual certification, obviously because they have the training, they have the expertise, the knowledge, the understanding to teach English learners, so it's very important to us. And so we're very proud of that, and we continue to work towards having more teachers bilingually certified. Now, one good thing to know about McAllen ISD is that we offer opportunities for teachers to become bilingually certified. So any teacher who wants to go through a review session, we provide the review sessions through the bilingual department. We give opportunities for teachers to test and then reimburse them once they pass the test. So there are measures in place to support the continued increase of teachers to get certified.
But again, in the bilingual program or in the dual language, one way or two way, they must be bilingually certified in order to teach in that classroom.
The state does allow for teachers to be ESO certified if they're teaching the English component. And in some cases, we do that where one teacher teaches the Spanish and another teacher teaches the English. So if that's the case, then the teacher who's providing the English instruction can be ESO certified. The state does allow us to do that. So we follow those guidelines.
All right. There's another slide you put together regarding tutoring.
Yes.
Because again, you know, every child learns in a different way. So we want these students to succeed. We're going to have to tailor the instruction aside from what happens in the classroom. So you're going to show us how the tutoring works.
Now, this one, of course, we don't have it just for dual language, and I do apologize. It's somewhat small. But you can see that every single campus has tutoring. And tutoring is very important because we need to provide opportunities for students to get reinforcement. Whenever there's gaps in learning, that student needs to receive additional support because what's happening in the classroom, sometimes it's not enough. They just need more time. So we have to provide, that's where that tutoring is so vital. We have to provide those opportunities, whether it be after school, before school, or on Saturdays. And so most of our campuses, or all of our campuses, have tutoring in place. Some of them have it different days of the week. They start at different times of the year. But the bottom line is that they all support our students with extra time for instruction to close those gaps.
Can you go back to the PowerPoint to any one of the schools that has a bilingual exit and dual language 1 and our dual language 2?
Okay, so we can look, for instance, at Sanchez here that has, they're a perfect example. They have bilingual education, obviously it's required, and they have bilingual early exit campuses or classrooms, one-way classrooms and two-way classrooms. So again, depending on the needs, depending on the students, because sometimes you may have in one grade level more English learners and fewer English speakers, so that will impact the type of classroom that you can offer. Or you may have students who transferred in from a campus that was early exit, and those students haven't participated in a one-way or a two-way, so they have to go into an early exit. But again, every campus is different, and we recognize that, and that's why we have to provide that differentiated support to the campuses in terms of what they need as far as resources, as far as professional development, as far as curriculum.
Now, at the elementary school, we're looking at a 22-to-1
Yes,
pre-K through fourth grade. And it looks like the pre-K at Lizeth Sanchez, on the early exit, you have 13 ELs and 11 non-ELs. So that's more than the 22-to-1, which is fair. And then you have 18 ELs, English learners, and 9 non-English learners, which is pretty balanced. Looks like only in the first grade on the two-way, you have 18 students, 7 ELs and 11 non-ELs on the two-way. But the others seem to be tracking pretty close to that.
Yes, sir.
You also, on the second grade, two-way, you have 8 ELs and 10. Is there any school in which you don't have that, where you're way below? Because I'd heard that there may be some as little as 10 or 11 students in a classroom.
We do have campuses, I believe, Perez is one example where the enrollment is low. For instance, in fourth grade, we have one classroom, and so there's 12 students in there, 10 ELs and 2 non-ELs. So that's a challenge, because what happens is that students either move away, or parents, for one reason or another, decided to not have their child participate. So yes, at some point, the class becomes small. And so that's one example of where we have 12 students in a class. However, because we are committed to the program, we do have that class and we support that implementation.
So what is the plan going forward to decide on a school that maybe the community, the parents are interested in a dual language there, one way or two way? Well, obviously, they already have the exit. I mean, that's required by law in every school, so we have that. But
Yes.
the other two programs, what's the plan if that were to occur going forward?
Right. So as you know, we have dual language at only one middle school. So that's where we do give parents the option to send their children to FOSSAM, and we do provide transportation. Because we know that dual language at the middle school is an option, it's not a mandate from the state, but this is our way of supporting those students and those families who want their children to continue with dual language into the middle school and ultimately the high school, that we will provide dual language at one of the middle schools and provide the transportation. And so we're making every effort to accommodate the parents' needs, working very closely with transportation to ensure that transportation is not a reason for them not to send the students to that campus.
And again, in the middle school, the STAR test is in English only. Where in
Yes,
the
sir, that is
elementary
correct.
school, the child can take it in English or Spanish.
That is
So
correct.
they're being bilingual, dual language, it works. But
Yes,
we
sir.
definitely got to get children really prepared for the STAR test at the middle school for
Absolutely.
English. And that
Yes,
is
sir.
why we focus the way we do right now at the middle school.
Right, absolutely. Well, at the middle school, as you mentioned, because the test is in English, our priority, our first level of commitment is to prepare that student for that test in the tested language, absolutely. Dual language is an enrichment program, and that's exactly what's called, an enrichment program. So we have that opportunity to enhance that second, the primary language, that's Spanish, which is wonderful. We never want our students to lose that first language. And so if we can do it, and like we're doing at FOSSAM, and we want to do it well and continue to have successful scores, we will continue to do it. But yes, our first commitment and our first priority is to prepare students for that English, for the English curriculum, which of course is the assessment is the evaluation of the curriculum.
Well, because the board is required to oversee and making sure that the TEKS, the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skill, that's fundamentally first and foremost for everything.
Exactly.
And the measure of that is the STAR
Is the
test,
STAR.
whether we like it or not, that's what it
Exactly.
is.
Yes, sir.
All right. We spent over an hour talking about this, so I have other questions that were already answered. I do have more, but I think it's other people's time, so thank you.
Sure, and we're going to have to move on pretty quickly, so I'm going to ask you to try to limit your questions, just so I can give the people who signed up. Most of these questions have been answered, but if anyone else has wants the opportunity to speak for 2 minutes, they're more than welcome to. Ms. Aizeda.
So the way that I see dual language. I think bilingual, it's a revolutionary power that we give our students because they have a true foundation in Spanish. It's not like early exit. Early exit, you don't have the true foundation in Spanish. It concerns me greatly that we don't have dual language in the South Side schools. I think that we have a very serious equity problem in our district. And I think that we should have policy in place that says that if we offer a program here, we should offer that program with the same fidelity that we do at other side campuses. I don't think anything happens in isolation. So when you look at all those scores and you look at how poorly some of the schools that have dual language are doing, I think you also have to look at the data on, is it truly tutoring after school, or is it just daycare after school? Is it safe and secure where the principals are earning a little, generating some revenue, or is it Boys and Girls Club where they're having tutoring? I think you need to look at their library programs. And if you look at the library reading programs of the schools that have dual language that are A schools, it's, as of today's date, as of November 1st, they've already doubled what the schools that aren't doing well in their reading scores will do in a year. So meaning like Gonzales will read 588,000 words, average words per student. They're today at 165,000. Whereas if you go to McAuliffe, they in a year will only do 75,000. So today Gonzales is reading, they're already doubled it, and we're already at November. So I think that we need a real purpose from the superintendent down to the principals that everything needs to have equity. If we're going to, have serious reading programs and we have best practices in place, and we can show that all these things add, to have a successful student, we should implement them. We shouldn't look at just one thing. I know early exit is required by law at every school, but I don't think early exit is the answer. I think dual language is the answer. And I think the answer is dual language at every single elementary school, kinder through fifth. And if we're going to have it in middle schools, I think it should be a true feeder pattern. I think that to say that we're for dual language and then not to offer a true pathway, you have to leave. My kid's not going to leave Bettis Elementary, all their friends in middle school, which is a very hard emotional time for children to go to middle school, to go to another campus where they don't know anybody. It's the same as our IB program. I think if we're going to have a system in place, that we need to have true feeder patterns. And the only feeder pattern for FOSSM that's in dual language is Sanchez Elementary. So I really think that we need to look at everything as a whole, and I think that the board should be made aware of things before they happen, before a principal or before administration decides to get rid of something that we believe in, that we have policy set in place. I mean, we have a board-approved bilingual program, and then when we find out that things are taken, pulled back a little bit at different campuses, it's very concerning. And I truly believe in the dual language program, and I believe that Spanish is an incredible foundation that we really need to afford everybody. And I don't think that people understand. I think when you go to your neighborhood school, you assume that that's the best school, and you assume that you're being offered everything that every other school is being offered. And you shouldn't have to shop around. You shouldn't have to self-select yourself out of Bonham to go to Houston. I should know that my child's getting an incredible education at Bonham, the exact same education that they're getting at Sam Houston. So why is one school a blue ribbon school and one school's not? And I think that we have real equity problems in the district, and I think that dual language is someplace that we really need to work on it.
Anyone else?
When we decide what programs go into what schools, are we just throwing darts at a board and saying, this is the program that's going to get to that school? How does this work?
No, we're definitely looking at data and what we believe can benefit the particular campus. As Dr. Ibarra pointed out, every campus is unique. In the end, it boils down to teacher quality. So we're doing our very best job right now to make sure that we have a quality teacher in front of students, regardless of the program, whether it's a STEAM Plus or the IB or the two-way dual or the early exit or the one-way. But in looking at choice, we want to have a dual language, whether it's a one-way or the two-way, as a choice, but not necessarily the only choice, because it makes it difficult whenever you start to look at classrooms across the district systemically, when you'll have maybe one classroom that has 12 kids and the other that has 22. And that's something that we're willing to work with, and we are. And we're more interested in creating a pathway from the elementary to the middle school to the high school. That's something that the district's never had. As you know, we've never had bilingual two-way programs at the middle school, and we do now. So with regard to believing in the system, we have the middle school program now.
And how
with
many-
the- With the intent of moving to the high school.
How many times have we had a parent from anywhere tell the principal, my child's primary language is Spanish, but I don't want them in a Spanish or bilingual class because I'll teach them that at home. I just want them to be in a full English class.
We do have some of that. I mean, we do have some parents that obviously the home is a very Spanish-rich environment. So their goal is to get their children to school and to get them to learn English because they're proficient in Spanish. So there is some of that. But then there's the flip side too, where there's English-speaking families that want to come in and become bilingual and biliterate. So it's just a matter of giving the community choice, and that's what we have in McAllen.
In 1980, part of the Marielito boat lift out of Cuba, my 3 cousins left Cuba and came to the United States. They came to a neighboring ISD. The administration at that ISD said these 3 young ladies that do not speak a lick of English are going to be placed in a bilingual class. And they'll start off in all Spanish and work their way out to English. That's how it was done. My mom, an educator for over 23 years, says you will put them in an English class. They will receive the Spanish at home. The primary reason that we're sending them to school in the United States is so that they focus on English. The option is there, but when the administration from the schools, because it was an elementary and a middle school at the time, pushed back and said, we don't want to do that, and we followed the chain of command to where we were able to get that done, the elementary principal, after it was the CAT, the California Achievement Test, was running down the hallways saying they said it couldn't be done. They said it couldn't be done. And it was the fact that my 2 cousins that were in elementary school with me mastered that test having English at home, English in school, and Spanish at home. So we need to take in consideration that what we do at home is a balance of what we do in the classroom. And if there's a family, and maybe the Southside family said, listen, we don't want our child to be in a bilingual program. We want them to learn the English. You know, I don't want to stereotype and say everybody on the Southside only speaks Spanish, but if that is a possibility, then we need to look into that and say, maybe that's what's happening at that school. But we also need to meet with the parents and say, how is it that we can help better prepare your students to achieve success through McAllen ISD? So if that means that maybe we've got to send Ms. Cavazos and her team to each school to meet with each parent individually and to meet with the principal and say, you are a predominantly speaking Spanish family. Do you want your child in a Spanish class, or do you want them to be fully immersed in English? I was 5 years old, and my mom didn't know that I spoke English until I finally asked her to bring my bike down. And that's when we were with our neighbor, and she said, do you understand what he just said? And our neighbor said, yeah, he's asking you to bring his bike down. But because the primary language in my house was Spanish, my mom never heard me speak it outside of the house. So I think we need to take that into consideration with each of our administrators on campus and set up meetings with parents. It's going to be a long endeavor, but we need to find out how we can specifically tailor that program to that campus and then give the parents the opportunity and say, listen, I know that you want your child in this program, but over 3/4, over half, do not want that program here. We can accommodate you at this campus where that program is in full bloom. I think that's something we need to start to consider.
And I do want to mention that we have evidence that the early exit program does do just what you just mentioned. It transitions kids. And we have equal evidence to show that the two-way dual language program does excellent too, where a kid learns a content in Spanish and is able to transfer that knowledge to English. So we're not nervous about the test being in English at the middle school, because we know that as they go through the two-way dual language program, that they'll be able to transfer that knowledge. But to your point, it just depends on what the family is looking for.
And I am a big proponent of multiple languages. I've seen the studies where grown adults that are bilingual, trilingual will suffer a stroke and be able to come back. They may lose comprehension of one language, but at that same time remember or even grow another language that they have been accustomed to. So we all know the studies and the successes of being bilingual. We know that being bilingual is more power. You know, we just need to make sure that we are giving our children that opportunity to receive that power. But that's got to come from the parents at home. Si hay algún maestro o maestra que no está enseñando a sus hijos como usted quiere, usted tiene la voz de hablar con el administrador de la escuela y decirle, mira, yo necesito ayuda. Mi hijo habla el español perfecto, pero yo quiero que él o ella se enfoca en el inglés, porque son varios años que nosotros hemos estado tratando de pasar un programa y no se puede hacer. At the same time, there can be a parent that say, listen, my child, all we do is speak English at home. And I want that child to be able to compete in a workforce. And I want that child to be able to be successful. So I want them in a Spanish language program. And I think we offer all three of those. So I'm not, I know what we do here at McAllen ISD, and I rave about it as much as we can, but I think we need to take in consideration that if there is not one of our schools, which all of our schools are fantastic, but if one campus does not fit your needs, you need to communicate with us so that we can get you to a campus that will help your child bloom, that will help your child grow and become the success that you want them to, that we want them to, that our society requires them to be down the road. Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Esparza?
No, I just,
Yes, thank you. By show of hands, how many parents are here from Travis Middle School? Raise your hands. Any parents from Travis Middle School? No? Son padres de la escuela Travis Middle School. Levanten las manos, por favor.
Go ahead.
Well, the reason I was asking, I know that we had some parents come in the last couple of meetings, and they brought up the issue of the dual language being dropped at Travis Middle School. And I think it was a surprise to the whole board here, at least it was to me. And, the same thing happened 3 years ago when we implemented it at all the elementaries, and then administration, the superintendent decided to cut it, and the board wasn't aware of it until, I think, Mr. Stern here, Dr. Stern, came to the board with some parents concerned that it was being cut at all the elementaries. And at that, or not all the elementaries, but a great deal of them. And at that time, we were assured by the superintendent and administration that that wouldn't happen again, yet here we are 3 years later, and it's happening again. Obviously, it's a concern to our parents. They made a promise to implement this program at the middle school, and I agree with Trustee Aliceda. It's a lot easier to say it said than done than say, oh yeah, don't worry, we'll send your kids to that campus clear on the other side of town, and we'll provide a bus for them. I went to an elementary campus in my neighborhood, and I think most parents want their kids to go to an elementary campus in their neighborhood so that at the end of the day, they can go there and they can meet their child and pick them up, and they can go in the mornings to drop off their children, not have to, transfer them clear to the other side of town. I'm sorry that it happened that way. Again, we were assured that it wouldn't, and yet here we are 3 years later, and it's the same situation. I would hope it doesn't happen again. And, our superintendent told us last time it wouldn't, and yet, like I said, here we are 3 years later, and it's the same issue. We'll do our best to resolve the issue for you. My children went to a dual language program, and they live out of the state, and it's a plus for them. They're sought out in their job because of that. And it's a plus. This morning, Mr. President Suarez and myself were at Pettis Elementary for one of the Veterans Day celebration ceremonies honoring our veterans. And the children got up there and read everything in English and in Spanish to the crowd. And it was great. And they understood what they were doing. So I think it's a plus for all of our kids. So I hope that, I give you my word that we'll do our best to get this issue resolved, because I don't think kids need to be transferred clear across town so that they can take advantage of a program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me just say something real quick. The world of public education is not easy. And to say that, I think it's been stated, and everybody's opinion has been stated, that what works in one school doesn't work in another. Southside schools are very successful at McAllen ISD. We have a Blue Ribbon school who does not have this program. And it's not because of a program, it's because of a system in place, and it's because people believe in it. It starts with our educators. To say that we have a tutoring system, and maybe they're not tutoring, I think it's offensive to any educator that's in this room and who has been a tutor or goes to tutoring. My child goes to tutoring. It's not because he wants to have fun. It's because he or she is needs a little bit more work. So I think there's a lot of dynamics in what we're talking about here. To see this room like this is beautiful, which means people care, which means you care about your kids' education, which means we care about our future. But just because you alter something or you shift it one way or another doesn't mean we don't care about your kid. It doesn't mean that the administration is doing things to sabotage a program. It means that they're trying to find the needs. I met with a senator from San Antonio who just the other day told me that in a few years, our funding will be based upon our rating, which means that if we get a C or a D, they're going to cut our funding. As it is, McAllen's already cut because of supposedly we're a property-rich district. So administration has a tough job to do, whether we agree with it or not. They have to do what's best for everyone. And that's the important thing here to understand, that what works at one campus might not work at another campus. To say that we want to grow the program, and why would we do it at Fossum? It's simple. The most successful program we're having now, the results we're getting are from Sanchez Elementary, which means if we get Sanchez and we move them to Fossum and move them to our next step, that means we're growing the program, which means now we might have to, a couple years down the line, have it at another middle school, have it at another high school. But we can't just go and do it everywhere and have it watered down. That's just my opinion, not the opinion of every board member here. That's my opinion, which is why I completely back up the administration. But I think one thing that's important here that Mr. Saldivar said, and like I said, I take no offense to any board member. Every single board member here cares what happens. And the fact that you have diversity on the board is a great thing, which means it allows us to make better decisions. But the reason for this workshop here is to tell you that we're committed to this program. Okay? But at what level the commitment is, which is to grow it, but how we're going to do it. And the plan right now, what the administration has presented, has not been, let's do it everywhere and let's just go with it. It's, let's make it work. Let's see where it's been successful. Let's see what it's done here and move it to the middle school and the high school. Now, whether or not that'll work, we seem to believe it is. And with meetings like this and workshops like this and help from people that are willing to come in here and spend time and we're willing to listen, there's no doubt in my mind that McAllen will continue to be successful. So at this time, at 4:57, Mr. Vela is the only one that hadn't spoken. I don't know if you have something to say.
questions.
Okay. After he speaks, out of the 9 people here, I think some of these questions have been answered. I know there's 2 or 3 that haven't, but I will have to reopen our meeting and close it, and I'll come back and give the speakers who wanted to speak their 2 minutes to speak, if that's okay with everyone. Mr. Vela?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Ibarra, real quick, I wrote some notes. Page 6, you mentioned and several campuses that we've got elementary. And I think Dr. Gonzalez may have addressed part of that by data. Who assesses that data and what are the guidelines that we use for that?
You're talking about assessment data?
How did we pick those campuses to have the elementary?
Oh. So again, assessment data is critical. Obviously, input from the community is also very important to us. The dynamics of each of the community, the parents, and so we look at everything, sir. It's not just one thing, and those decisions, of course, are made not by one person. It's made by administration in collaboration with the campuses. So it's very collaborative, and there's a lot of discussion, a lot of data analysis before any of these decisions are made. But yes, definitely input from the campuses.
If I may, I wanted to just expand on that answer, is also communicating with each campus and making sure that if you look at the leadership, the leaders on that particular campus can really drive the program. And it takes extra sacrifice on behalf of the teachers and going a couple of extra steps. So a staff that could really, just looking at those that are ready, willing, and able to push that program And we felt that these particular campuses that we have before us are some that could really push the program, grow it, and give us some data points.
That leads me to my third question then. On page 19, you said that part of the evaluation was an assessment taken by principals and teachers on campus. And what Dr. Gonzalez just said, those are the ones that decide to push the program. What if a principal and teachers decide not to do the program? Is that something that they have a choice to do?
Our goal is to support those teachers and give them those, and the principals, to give them those resources. In other words, identify those barriers, those roadblocks, and then support them, because perhaps it's that we have not provided insufficient support. So it's not to do away with the program, it's how do we make it work?
I understand that, but is the converse true, that if they don't want the program?
No, sir. On those particular campuses, they don't have there's no choice to it. Those campuses we're going to push forward with.
All right, thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
And going back to page 7, you talked about expanding the program from those campuses to more than one possible middle school and then to the high school. Would that be all of the high schools, all the comprehensive high schools, or would it be just to one particular high school?
We are thinking of
At
what,
this, the first conversation, we've had a couple of conversations. We've gone from one comprehensive to all comprehensives. We've even considered and thought about language, be it the diploma year program or a school within a school at the Lamar campus. We've talked about Achieve. At this point, we've talked about all, and we're trying to find the best fit. But we've never really believed that right out of the gate that we could do all comprehensives at one time, because the numbers don't call for that. So it would be one particular campus. We just haven't identified it yet.
My only concern is that we may be tying up a very tangled web, if you will, because if you're at Fossum today, well, the logical choice would be Mac High, right? But if you, or Rowe, if you don't make it Rowe, then now you've gotten into UIL issues, now you've gotten into neighborhood issues, so you begin to complicate that whole issue. And then what about the Mac High kids? Why aren't they getting it as opposed to just the Rowe kids? So there are a lot of issues that we are developing that may not be solvable issues following this discussion.
if
Those
I,
are, oh, and one more point, if I may. You also mentioned that we're disseminating information through electronic newsletters.
we're going to start, yes. I do,
I don't know if we realize how many of our parents don't have electronic means. There are a lot of kids, and especially, and I hate to use the dividing line, but the South kids, if you look at the data that we've been provided, a lot of these parents don't even sign into Skyward. So, just another
so
point
both
that-
electronic and paper
They'd have
would be,
to.
definitely. Okay, good point, sir, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and recess the workshop at 5:02, and I'm going to open up our regular board meeting in 1 minute. At this time, those of y'all who spoke, who signed up to speak, or is anyone here still wanting to speak?
Would you call it? See if anybody else-
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's,
Dr. Stein does.
It goes against the statute.
yeah, it goes against.
We're not even supposed to do this. He's just giving him a fair shot.
Somebody else would like to go first.
There you go. Did you?
Your name is on here, right, man?
Well, at a workshop, the president can acknowledge anyone from the floor.
I got it. Yes, were you signed up to speak
Didn't
already?
mean to get him upset.
Okay, and what name was this? Amanda. Okay, Amanda. Amanda, so we will give you 2 minutes if you want to come up to the, Tony, you got it?
We'll get it.
You'll have 2 minutes.
Okay, I don't really have a question so much as we are Sanchez family, and we moved from Garza, the school down the street, and we saw a big difference in the overall way that they operated, and the mood of every staff in the building is way better at Sanchez. And I think that, like you said, you should implement what they're doing at Sanchez throughout the district. And our daughter, I brought her report card. She has a higher grade in Spanish reading than English reading, and we speak English in the home. And she's made all A's since she started kinder, in Sanchez, and she's in 3rd grade now. So she's making more friends with people who are straight from Mexico, and she's benefiting from it a lot. And the only thing that we don't like at Sanchez is that they have hot dogs and corn dogs on Monday. And there's,
1 minute.
we have to bring them lunch on Mondays, and
Mr. Esparza is in charge of that,
that's
but I'll get you his
horrible.
number later.
You want that? Okay, other than that, I know that's another meeting, but they're, what they eat
That one will start at 1 o'clock.
reflect how they work, and everything about the dual language program we support, and that's why we're here. And if you ask everyone to raise their hands who's from Sanchez, you'll see more parents than, yeah. And that's it.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Anyone else who signed up to speak and your questions have not been answered?
Oh, that Sanchez is getting crowded, so if you can, fix it quickly, because last year they added 100 students, this year they added another 100 students, so they had to wait, like, little things like their iPad, they waited till late October to get that, and that's supposed to be part of the system's way of extra education, so if they can fix the problems in the south, then maybe Sanchez can keep their number.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to stick to the script just because we're a little bit on time. Sorry about that. Yes, ma'am? Ms. Ramirez? Yes, ma'am. You will have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. First of all, I want to tell you that I attended Thigpen in 1955. I attended Travis, and then I went on to McHigh. And during that time, we didn't have the bilingual programs. And we did have a lot of abuse, but somehow we learned it. I don't know how, but we did. And so happy to have spent all my years here, and then later became a teacher because my 3rd grade teacher was such an inspiration to me at Fields. Because at one point, my father moved me to Fields because we weren't receiving the education that he thought at Thigpen, so we went to Fields. But had a delightful experience because I met the best teacher in the world, and I became a teacher, and then a counselor, and I am retired now. And I'm just so happy because I really didn't know how the dual language was in McAllen, but so happy that you are keeping it because we are getting so many children that are coming. I'm a counselor at Sherryland, and we get a lot of kids, that are coming in without language, and they're running from violence, and so this program is such a good program.
1 minute.
Pardon?
1 minute.
It's very supportive, so just to support, and hopefully we can get into Travis again, okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ramirez. Name? Mrs. Castro, if you can come up to the mic, please.
Hola, buenas tardes. Yo voy a
Buenas
hablar en
tardes.
español porque
Perfecto.
es mi primer idioma. Bueno, primero que nada quiero decir que tengo 2 hijas, una de 22 y otra chica de 7 años. Desde la chica le dan, es especial porque necesita ayuda. Entonces, mi punto aquí, que ella yo veo cómo ha desarrollado porque desde los 3 años McAllen le ha ayudado con un programa para que ella esté a nivel de los demás niños. En este momento ella tiene 7 años y yo veo cómo ella ha avanzado y ella maneja el inglés y el español correcto. O sea, para mí es un orgullo que el distrito de McAllen tenga esos programas y que si le retiran esa ayuda, siento que ella se atrasa porque ha adelantado mucho. En la escuela Sánchez se graduó mi otra hija que ahorita tiene 22 años. Ella trabajó aquí en la policía de McAllen en las llamadas de emergencia y dice, mamá, ¿cómo me ayudó saber el español? El 80% de las llamadas de emergencia son en español.
1 minuto.
Le queda 1 minuto.
Ok, entonces, para mí sí es bien importante, porque la comunicación se perdería con mi hija, con sus abuelos. Para mí es definitivamente, siento que perdería la comunicación que existe de la más pequeña conmigo y con la familia. Es todo.
Muchas gracias. ¿Tu nombre?
Elfea Castro. Quisiera hablar mucho. pero me dieron 2 minutos, pero creo que tengo 2 chances más. Entonces, yo he educado a mis hijos en el doble idioma. Soy una mamá con desventaja económica, una mamá LEP, y mis niños son LEP. Traje con ellos todos los certificados, todos los avances que ellos han hecho. Y cuando a mí la escuela me diga, es que depende la zona, depende las prioridades, no, todos los niños tienen la capacidad de ser exitosos. Vivimos en una región donde el español y el inglés es una barrera muy chiquita. Aquí yo el inglés no lo hablo, pero lo entiendo, y ustedes a lo mejor no hablan en español, pero lo entienden. Y nosotros tenemos la capacidad, McAllen ISD tiene la capacidad de sacar generaciones completas que hablen 2 idiomas. El español no nada más es cuestión de cultura, es cuestión de avance. Históricamente viene del latín y del griego. De ahí descienden varios idiomas, que son los idiomas romances.
1 minuto.
Italiano, francés, portugal y español. Mis hijas, cuando ellas cumplan su mayoría de edad o cuando crezcan, cuando dominen el español, ellas van a tener mayores oportunidades de aprender francés, italiano y portugués. Mis niños tienen la capacidad de aprender 5 o 6 idiomas y yo quiero eso para todos los niños. Gracias.
Gracias. Anyone else whose questions have not been answered? Guillermo. Okay, sir.
Good afternoon. I just want to let you know that I went to Chicago school in elementary, and it was all English. My mom and dad was all Spanish, so I was able to learn both very fluent. Hablo los dos muy bien, no lo entiendo y lo hablo muy bien. So con eso yo puedo tener buenos trabajos. In the industry, I work for Texas Instruments. I work for Cisco Systems. I work for big companies that needed bilingual people there. And it's made me a lot of good positions. And it's always paid off to know both languages. Friends everywhere around the United States, anywhere I've been, I've needed to know both languages. One thing that I noticed at Sanchez School, where our kids attend, that many people want to come to this school from other places of the city, of the cities. And it kind of, we have to rush to register our kids first
1
before
minute.
anybody else beats us to it. And it's our neighborhood, it's our school, it's our district. We need to keep on attending to the same school, and we need to help the other schools so that we don't have that situation. Everybody wants to attend to that one pertained school. So I appreciate you all's help.
Thank you, Mr. Carlos. Anyone else who signed up to speak and hasn't spoken yet? Okay, Dr. Gomez, whenever you're ready.
First of all, I want to commend the board. It's awesome, the commitment by the board for dual language. I want to share with you all one point that I heard quite a bit is that early exit is required. And I want to clarify a little bit of that, and maybe you guys already know, but what the state requires is a bilingual education program. Early exit is one of those. Late exit is another. Dual language is another. One-way dual language or two-way dual language. So one thing you all may consider, because I know there's been, and I'll say this point, one-way dual language can be the bilingual program of the district. And it's simply adopted by the board. And I know there's an issue of fidelity, and I agree with that. Fidelity is very important. But by simply moving the program to one-way dual language, your kids will definitely have greater success because of everything that was said. Native language instruction will be consistent.
1 minute.
Won't be for 2 or 3 years, will be consistent. And the goal in one-way dual language programs is biliteracy, which is the same as two-way dual language programs. So my comment is that one-way can be the bilingual program. Many districts in the state of Texas have adopted one-way as their official bilingual program. Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Dr. Gomez. Process of elimination.
Yes. Hello, good evening. I want to thank the board for the same commitment, pero también quiero agradecer a los padres que han venido. Es bastante importante que están aquí y que están aquí para mostrar el apoyo para este programa. And I just want to sort of state the obvious, right? Like there are people in the hall. That's the amount of support that there is for this program. And so I think that unfortunately, I think the district, made a mistake in 2016 when it cut the program without really consulting the communities in which the principals decided, the district decided, but parents did not decide, right? And so I want to say that the bodies in this room are a testimony to the level of parent support, and that although we've had some people speak from Sanchez, I know there are parents from many different campuses here, and Sanchez parents are good at being vocal, right? But they're not the only parents. And so I just think that, as Dr. Gomez was saying, the district does have the option to offer the dual language program at any campus as its preferred bilingual program.
1 minute.
And I don't believe this idea that somehow there are Spanish-dominant families that would block that move on the part of the district. So I just want to sort of state that clearly, that I don't believe that, right? But, pivoting to the support that you see in this room, I want you to recognize that you're sitting on a gold mine, right? You're sitting on parents who are fired up about a program that you are offering.
30.
And that are telling their friends, hey, transfer your kid to McAllen. Like they're offering this, right? But the problem is that it's not offered across the city's map, right? And so I agree with Aliceda that it's
15.
an equity issue, right? Like you have to make sure that it's being offered across the McAllen map. But this is just to show that regardless of where you offer it, we will help you find the program, the parents, right? We will help you get those enrollments if you can just open those programs. Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. At this time, I'd like to thank everyone for coming. I really appreciate y'all's support. I'm sure y'all already know if y'all need to get a hold of any of us, our phone numbers and our email addresses are on the website. So at this time, I'm going to adjourn the 4 o'clock workshop and reconvene into the 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock board meeting. And with that being said, we go to item number 3, recess to closed session. The Board of Trustees may go into closed session pursuant to Section Code 551.071, 551.072, 551.074 of the Texas Government Code to discuss the following. 3A, Human Resource Recommendations for School Year 2019-2020, Human Resource Employee Resignation 2019-2020, pending or potential litigation, or D, possible real estate acquisitions. At 5:18, we are now in closed session. Thank you.